Today I did something that I was pretty sure I wasn't going to enjoy. And I think taking these kind of risks is important for growth, where you step outside of your comfort zone and try something new, even if you're convinced you're not going to like it. I did that today. I cannonballed into the swimming pool of yuckiness and did something rather foul. Now, this isn't anything huge. It's not like I was some kind of brave, courageous warrior that really put it all on the line today to try something new. I didn't go hog wild and wacky like sticking my dick in a gas station glory hole or anything. I watched a show that I was very sure I was probably going to dislike. I asked myself, how bad could Netflix's lowest rated original be? And that show is The Witcher Blood Origin. Right now it has a 32% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 13% audience score. It was also lower in the critics side. It used to be down to like 16%, but then I guess some glowing reviews came scooting in there, maybe even paid reviews, I have no idea. And it's not like I really put a whole lot of stock into Rotten Tomatoes scores, by the way. Rotten Tomatoes gives Big Mouth a 100% every single season except for one. And Big Mouth is the worst thing humanity's created since the Brazen Bull torture device. I swear, watching Big Mouth is up there with being waterboarded. It's just a cruel and unusual punishment, and yet it gets rewarded every season on Rotten Tomatoes with a perfect score. It's mind-blowing. But now I'm getting off on a tangent. The point is, I don't put a whole lot of faith in Rotten Tomatoes as like a reviewing source, but The Witcher Blood Origin has been shit on across the board from everyone, and I wanted to see just how bad it was, because I wrote this off immediately, as did everyone else, because it proudly disregards the source material that it's supposed to be borrowing from. It uses the Witcher IP and then wipes its ass with it. So this is a spin-off story. It's a prequel to The Witcher. It's set about 1200 years before the events of The Witcher, and it's not based on anything, and I don't typically get upset about that. I think it's fine if you want to take a universe and then tell your own original story in there. That's fine, but it always has to at least pay respect to the source material, something that Blood Origin fails to do on any level whatsoever. And it also has to at least fit and make sense in the universe, like justify its existence. Why is it there? And does it play by the universe's rules? Well, across the board here, the answer is pretty much no. Like, this feels like it was a complete nothing sandwich that they decided to serve up. I don't really get what the point was. There's a couple of moments where I was entertained. Like, I'm not going to pretend like the entire thing was this pile of dog shit. But on the whole, it really was worthless, like a waste of time. Now, I want to be clear here because I'm sure if you just heard what I said there and you've seen the show, you probably raised an eyebrow really high. Like, in entertainment, enjoyment, in Witcher Blood Origin, did we watch the same show? Let me explain, because now I need to defend myself, because there's almost nothing to like about it, except for one thing: the mindless goofiness to its action. When there is action in Blood Origin, it's about as mindless as it can possibly get. And when the rest of the show is as stale as the goldfish that are stuck in between my couch cushions, it's at least refreshing when something, anything at all happens. Because the show puts you to sleep. The show gives you like this, like almost hypnosis of boredom. Like, I swear to God, half the time when I was watching this show, the generic nature of everything and the convolution of its messy plot would have me passing out like it was a drug overdose. And then they'd have their goofy action come on and it was like this little hit of Narcan. I'm not trying to defend the action sequences because I know they're not great. I'm sure there's plenty of critiques that exist for the choreography, or really lack thereof, to the action scenes. But for me, I could at least appreciate the unapologetic silliness of it, and those fleeting moments of ephemeral enjoyment were overshadowed by hours of boredom and nonsensical, messy garbage. Narratively, this thing is as messy as it gets. I actually have a conspiracy theory that originally this was supposed to be its own generic fantasy show that they started filming, and then they got halfway through the season and then they just ran out of budget or it got canceled. But they didn't want it to go to waste, so they had these like 4 episodes worth of content that they already poured money into and they already had all the footage. So they knew they could probably sell and at least get eyes on it if they just slapped the Witcher IP on top of it, even though it had no real tie-in. So they did, like in an act of desperation, and then they like wrote in some loose Witcher lore to it, and it just doesn't work. But that's what I feel. I feel like they just made like a generic fantasy flick and then slapped The Witcher on it as the afterthought. It feels like this was just an incomplete product that got shipped out early. What I'm watching here is the pre-alpha. Usually when I'm ranting about something I didn't like, I'll give spoiler warnings and then talk about more specific reasons and examples from what I watched, but for this, I just don't even see the point. It's like not even really worth it, because I'm sure you weren't planning on watching it anyway. I wasn't either. I just for some reason got super curious as to what made this so bad that even critics were attacking it and saying it was shit. And I probably shouldn't have. This was Pandora's Box that I shouldn't have even bothered opening, but I did, and I do regret it. So I'm not going to even really get into spoilers, but I would like to point out a couple of specific things that are more broad. Almost every character in the show is an elf, yet that has absolutely no difference in how they behave, how they act, or anything. It's not even elves like you're used to seeing in The Witcher. They don't act the same or anything. They're basically just humans with little pointy ears in here. And the pointy ears look like something you could have found at Party City for some of the characters. It's just, what was even the point of making them elves at that level? Like, why? It doesn't do anything, it doesn't add anything, and it's not even like an important point to the show, really, because it's not explored or done super well. Like, it's not really weaved into the narrative in any other way aside from them just basically being humans with long ears. I don't even get what the point of that was. It seems like they didn't give much thought to anything in this show, and it also feels like they didn't have a budget to do anything in this show either. It doesn't even look good. I felt like I was watching a CW production sometimes. Everything just feels like cheap. I don't know if it's just me, but I thought the visuals were really, really lacking, especially for a Netflix original here. There's absolutely times where I thought I was watching a fan project, but then the writing kicked in and I realized this is absolutely not done by Witcher fans. That much is very clear. By far the worst part is its writing, no doubt, but more specifically the writing for the characters. This is literally the first line in the show, and that sets the tone for the writing for the rest of the series. It's just so laughably bad so often. And the characters will sometimes just point blank tell you, like, this is very important to me because this, and this is how I'm feeling, without ever spending the time to build up relationships or build up these things. A good writer would be able to convey that without just point blank telling you, like almost breaking the fourth wall, like, hey, viewer, this is what you don't know about me and how I'm feeling right now, so let me explain it to you. It's just bad. Maybe that's because it's only 4 episodes, so the time constraints, it was hard to build a relationship, but to me it just feels like just general laziness as opposed to like a limitation on the amount of time they were allotted. The whole thing is just sloppy. It has nothing to do with The Witcher. It doesn't try to. I don't get the point. And I don't want to just keep focusing in on The Witcher Blood Origin specifically. I again want to, zoom out the lens here and talk about the bigger thing, the trend of taking beloved property like The Witcher and then giving it to people that don't fucking care and even openly, proudly disrespect it most of the time, like with Halo. I keep bringing up Halo because that is the gift that keeps on giving. It is applicable to so much here, and to me that is still the most egregious example of people that hated the property they were working on, tried to do something that they deemed better, and made something that is unforgivable, something unholy, just a downright sin. It is criminal how bad the Halo show was, and that's kind of where everything's going. You have the Last of Us showrunner coming out saying, death in the games were just kind of pixels, so it's going to be different in the show. And now you have Witcher Blood Origin furthering this, where it's like, The Witcher, who cares about that? We're just going to use that name and then tell our own generic fantasy story. What is the fucking point? This is like that episode of SpongeBob with how many times we have to teach you this lesson, old man. Stop giving these beloved IPs to people, showrunners, producers, heads of studios that clearly don't give a fuck about it. What do you hope to accomplish? You don't get the fans of the property. You immediately lose them. You make an enemy out of them. You also don't get the general audience because they don't care about the IP to begin with. It's not like strong enough to bring in new eyes. It doesn't have its own legs because it's relying on the safety of the IP's name, and you deliver something half-baked like this show. Who are you even targeting? Because with Blood Origin, it's not Witcher fans. It's not fantasy fans. It's what? People that have like autoplay on or something, like YouTube kids, they have an iPad and they just have random shit pop up. Like, who is this even geared towards? I don't get it. That's a question I asked with Halo because it wasn't geared towards Halo fans, and it wasn't geared towards just like general sci-fi fans either because it wasn't good enough. And now it's a question I'm asking here. Why? You have a dedicated audience with that IP. That franchise comes built in with eyeballs. So why not like make an ally out of them instead of an enemy? Show them that you actually care about it instead of bragging about not playing the games or not reading the stories that it comes from or whatever. Again, this is me talking about Halo, but I'm sure it applies to Blood Origin because clearly they have made a very public case of disrespecting the property. Henry Cavill's now no longer with The Witcher going forward after season 3. Again, why is this the norm to give this IP to people that don't like it to begin with? You're never going to get something good out of it. You just keep getting shit. More and more shit piled on top of itself in this giant septic tank of bad adaptations. And it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. Like, you could absolutely just give it to people who do want to use it and make something great with it. I know it exists. So why do we keep doing this? It just doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, I just wanted to rant a little bit today. That's really about it. See ya.